against our generation. Yes, perhaps more than any previous generation growing up in the past few decades. But just because it will take longer to see progress and make changes doesn't mean that it's never going to happen.
Como ayuda y convertido, man.
Reacting to the world in the way any kid would when faced with an unknown future job market, stupidly high housing prices, and terrible cost of education. And I get that, but as much as this is going to sound like a dude who's just telling you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, which I'm not saying is the only option, there are ways. There's nothing wrong with living with your parents for a longer time than past generations in order to save money. There's nothing wrong with struggling to find a job in this market. What matters is that your actions are aligned with the person you want to become, even if those actions aren't producing the results you want. I'm not even saying the results you want are guaranteed if you start aligning your actions with the person who makes progress in life. But it's a hell of a lot better than spending the rest of your days purchasing unnecessary pleasures that won't lead to lasting fulfillment. You don't need to reach these societal standards we've constructed, like graduating by this age or having a house or a wife or a husband by this age. But you should want to do things with your time that genuinely excite you, that lead to you building your mental and physical fortitude. Join free clubs, get involved with volunteer work, go to a library and read a genre you've never read before, study an up-and-coming industry, start a personal project, gain relevant skills and skills. Whatever takes you farther away from the endless consumerism and closer to the version of you that realizes that life has a lot more possibilities than you initially thought, fucking do that shit. Other than raising awareness or trying to make changes on a local level, there's not much else you can do. So go do that stuff. If you like this video, you might enjoy my video about how AI is kind of ruining education. I also have a critical thinking masterclass.
They saved the Baltic.
This video is kindly sponsored by War Thunder. I was a Gefreiter in the 299th Infantry Division. We were stationed near Kharkov in the winter of 43, dug into trenches so frozen we had to break the ice to piss. That's when we first fought alongside the Waffen SS. I believe it was men from Das Reich. You couldn't miss them. Better boots, new camouflage, and this aura of grim confidence. They didn't speak much to us, and truth be told, we didn't go out of our way either. There was respect, yes. They fought hard, sometimes harder than us. But there was also tension. They were aggressive, even reckless. Our officers would mutter about unnecessary casualties, about political soldiers. Some of the older guys didn't like them at all, but when the Soviets came at us in waves, we were glad they were nearby. They held the line, sometimes they pushed it forward. Still, they weren't like us. Different chain of command, different discipline. They were loyal to something else. But to be honest, many of them were just normal men, like you and me. I often do see the post-war media make them out as these super dark, evil monsters. The ones I came into contact with seemed just as human as us. Obviously, there were some that weren't this way. Across the Eastern Front, from the frozen trenches of Kharkov to the burning fields of Kursk, the German army and the Waffen SS fought side by side. They advanced together, retreated together, and died together, often indistinguishable in the chaos of battle.
Esto es mejor que alguno de esos refrescos.
But beneath the surface, there were tensions, different command structures, different values, and a growing rivalry between the old professional officer corps and the politically charged formations of the SS. What did the traditional hero officers truly think of these so-called elite units? Were they seen as brave comrades or reckless outsiders? In this video, we dive into the heart of that question, drawing from first-hand accounts, wartime diaries, and the reflections of some of Germany's most senior commanders. From admiration to open disdain, the opinions were as varied as the men who held them. Let's uncover what the German army really thought of the Waffen SS. The Wehrmacht was built on centuries of German and Prussian military tradition. After Germany's unification in 1871, the standing army became the backbone of the state, led by conservative Prussian officers who upheld strict discipline and military honor. Following Germany's defeat in World War I, the Treaty of Versailles slashed the army to just 100,000 men, stripped of tanks, artillery, and an air force. But men like Hans von Ziegt kept the officer corps intact, determined to rebuild. Veterans like Rommel and Guderian, hardened in the Freikorps, helped forge the modern Wehrmacht, men who proved their worth before the next war even began. The Waffen-SS, however, emerged purely from Nazi politics. Originally formed as the SS Verfügungstruppe in 1934, it was created to serve the party, not the nation itself, but almost Europe as a whole. Himmler's vision was a military wing loyal only to Hitler, rooted in racial purity and absolute obedience. While the Wehrmacht represented the German state, the SS embodied a new National Socialist ideology. From the outset, many career soldiers viewed them as political fanatics, chosen for loyalty over military history or skill. Under former Wehrmacht, or Hauser, the SS restructured its training, putting heavy focus on physical strength, endurance, and combat drills. Recruits, often from rural areas, were molded into aggressive fighters. Sports and toughness.
Ya sabes cuál es el mejor igual, pero no puedo estar jugando con la poca munición, ¿entendés? No me puedo estar jugando de lento.
And unshakably committed to the Nazi cause. The level of political indoctrination varied greatly within the German armed forces. While most Wehrmacht troops received only limited exposure to Nazi ideology, usually through occasional propaganda lectures, Waffen-SS recruits were deeply immersed in it. Every member of the SS was required to be part of the Nazi party and receive and political worldview. From the start, soldiers, but the ideological vanguard of a new order, defenders of the Germanic people against all hostile others.
We have a vast amount of career paths. As long as you're willing to be persistent, to put yourself out there.
TSA will open doors for you. You just take that first step.
This mission was reflected in their leadership training. Future SS officers were required to spend at least a year serving in the ranks, blurring the line between officer and enlisted man in a way the Wehrmacht adopted. SS soldiers addressed each other strictly by rank, avoided the traditional hair formality, and replaced the standard military salute with the raised arm Hitler salute. One Wehrmacht officer later remarked that some SS believed themselves superior because they removed the social gap between leaders and men, eating and sleeping side by side. He criticized the approach as reckless, saying it's the reason so many SS officers were killed. They insisted on leading attacks from the front to uphold their image. As the war dragged on and casualties mounted, both the Wehrmacht and Waffen-SS were forced to lower their standards. The SS, once proud of its strict racial criteria, began recruiting foreign volunteers and conscripts in large numbers. By the war's end, more than 38 SS divisions had been formed, many of them made up of non-German troops of varying quality. Nearly half of all Waffen-SS personnel were foreign-born, a dramatic shift from the unit's original purpose. Yet the contrast in how each branch recruited and trained its soldiers left behind a lasting impression and lasting stereotypes. One of the biggest sources of friction between the forces was their competing command structures. In the Wehrmacht, the traditional chain of command ran through the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht, or OKW, a system built on centuries of German military order. Promotion was earned through time in service, performance, and competence. In contrast, the Waffen-SS operated under a parallel